Hello, everyone. Okay, this is Artie Astor with another episode of B Sharp and C. I'm still trying to get over how upset I am that I spent hours making a video about a movie and then realized that all of my clips, all the clips that I used would get the video blocked. Live and learn. And I'm not going to go on another tirade of how I absolutely hate corporate greed. And I will never, ever think it is any other reason other than corporate greed for my video to get blocked. But you know what? It's up. It just doesn't have any movie clips in it. Go watch the movie U571. Okay, all that being said, I'm doing a video now of B sharp and C. And this one's really close to me for a lot of reasons. Number one, the songwriting style of this artist is very much like mine. I've played songs by this artist for people, and they're like, "Is this one of your songs, Artie?" No, it's not one of my songs. It's actually Edwyn Collins. Um, and you know, I actually think that's a really big compliment for me when someone listens to Edwyn Collins and then says that they think it's me, because I think that Edwyn Collins is a fantastic songwriter. But today's episode is going to be about him, and it's going to be about a lot of different things. I think perseverance is the first and foremost thing that is going to be highlighted with this episode about Edwyn Collins, because you know, he was born in 1959, but a lot of people who have heard of Edwyn Collins know of him from the early 90s. So his first real big hit in the United States didn't even come out until he was 35. We're going to get into all that once we get this episode started. This episode of B Sharp and C is about the amazing Edwyn Collins. Okay, so I can talk a lot about this man. And I don't want to be like Wikipedia and just mention off a bunch of facts, but he was born in Scotland in 1959, and in the mid 70s, co-founded a band called the New Sonics. And it's so interesting because we usually, like I said before, we usually equate this man with the 90s, but he's co-founded a band in 1976. And in 1979, the band changed its name to Orange Juice. Now, they didn't have a lot of success. They had very little success. I think their first album, I think, sold like 2,000 copies. I don't know the exact figure, but there was a single on that album that really only sold like 2,000 copies. But from 1976, really up until the mid 80s, the band tried. And in 1982, they actually had a song that reached number 8 on the UK charts. Let's give a listen to that song. It's called Rip It Up. All right, I won't play the whole song, but we get the point. It's actually got a very interesting little beat to it. I love the guitar scratching. This was, I think, 1982. And what's really interesting about this is that by 1985, Orange Juice ran out of juice. They disbanded. Okay, so now here you have a guy born in 1959, right? So by 1985, he was 26 or so, right? He really Um, maybe thought, okay, I gave it a shot. You know, I've been around since the 70s and I've been with a band and we've released some music and I actually reached the UK charts, but he didn't give up. And I need to say this. I need to say this because I've spoken to people, my God, I've spoken to people who are 17 and they're songwriters and they say, I haven't had a song released yet. My days are up. My opportunity to make it big in music is over. And when I hear that, I think, man, that's so short-sighted. There is music is a part of life. And if you're alive and you're able to express yourself in any way musically, then there really isn't a need to think my days are over. I can't do anything else anymore musically. But here's the kicker. In 1994, when the guy is 35 years old, after what some would say were a lot of failed attempts at stardom, he releases an album called Gorgeous George. And I want to point out two masterpieces from that album. I really feel as though that album, at 35 years old, after attempting and failing to make it big in music, that album at 35 years old, in the mid 90s, there was no song with a more catchy or catchier guitar riff than this man's song. In fact, a keyboard riff and a guitar riff in this man's song kind of marked a style of music for the mid 90s. And I want to play the song, and it's a song that we're all going to know, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s. It's a song that you're going to hear and say, oh, I've heard of that. And what's really interesting is a lot of people thought, because the song is very old-fashioned sounding, so a lot of people thought that this song was like a cover of another song from the 60s or 70s, but it's not. This is an original song from this man. So let's listen to it. It is a song called A Girl Like You.
Like in a song from days of yore. Here you come a knocking, knocking on my door. Well, I've never met a girl like you before.
So I don't know if he's actually using a glockenspiel right there, but it's a glockenspiel sound. It's really nice. But that sound, with the way the song is performed and that awesome fuzz sound on the guitar, and just his amazing voice, and we heard it in that song from 1982, Rip It Up, we heard how he really can access that tenor, that deep, guttural sound of his voice. And it's such a marvelous quality. It's beautiful. And this song here, when I first heard it on the radio in 1994, I thought it was a cover of an older song. When I found out that the artist wrote this song, that it was his, I thought that we were onto something, that this is going to be the dawn of a new age, a new style of music, or a comeback of a style of music, a fusion of a style of music, because that is what this sounds like. It's a fusion of like rock and neo jazz, but kind of like traditional jazz, but not really, and a little bit of rockabilly, and like, who knows? It's so unique. Let's continue for a few seconds.
want more.
And you had the geek, 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 like that weird sound, you know, and it almost puts the song into some type of weird electronica synthesizer type of genre as well. It's so multi-genre and so well done. And I just remember when the song came out, I remember thinking to myself that this guy was going to be huge. So I went and I bought his album. Okay, I bought his album, and then I listened to another song that really, really made me identify with him as a songwriter. I could not find a music video or a live performance of this song. It never really took off the way I would have hoped it would have, because I feel as though this song here is in a league of its own. And to this day, so from 1994 to the year 2025, I have yet to hear a song written and put together as beautifully as Out of This World by Edwyn Collins. Let's listen.
I'm praying for rain. I'm praying that you come to your senses. 'Cause whilst you bask in the warmth of the sun, we're vulnerable and defenseless. There are so many people who've come to depend on you. There are even some impressionable fools for whom you are a guru. And you turn to them and you say, love is in the season. But the seasons change. Then what will you believe in? When the winter comes, that's when I'll be leaving. I'll leave to find a way to break out of this world. Yes, there's got to be a way to break out of this world.
Okay, so right away, this song has absolutely everything. It has, the song starts off, it has the beautiful backing vocals, you know, ooh, 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 ooh. It has the verses and then like a pre-chorus and then a chorus, and the chorus kind of crescendos, and then it just goes right back to the beginning lick and that backing vocals that you hear, right? And to me, everything about it, you have the keyboard sound. I don't know if that's a Fender Rhodes. It doesn't necessarily sound like it.
I'm praying that you come to your senses to depend on you. There are even
So here are the verses, right?
impressionable fools for whom you are a guru.
And then a pre-chorus.
And you turn to them and you say, love is in the season. But the seasons change. Then what will you believe in? When the winter comes,
And you can hear the harmonizing in the right ear.
that's when I'll be.
That awesome sound in the background, that synthesizer sound that's going on in the background. It's kind of wavy and it's just playing chord tones. So when the chords change, it's kind of playing chord tones with the chords.
I'll leave to find out
And then the crescendo.
to break out.
And what's weird is if you really listen to the verses and the pre-chorus, I don't even think the chords change.
I'm praying for rain. I'm praying that you come to your senses. 'Cause whilst you bask in the
And I love how a little bit of the instrumentation pulls back to allow us to focus on the lyrics and on the voice.
warmth of the sun, we're vulnerable and defenseless. There are so many people
Another verse,
who've come to depend on you.
nothing really new added.
Or even some
Okay, ready?
fools for whom you are a guru. And you turn to them and you say,
Okay, the chords did change. So this is the pre-chorus.
love is in this season.
And then they have that really high-pitched organ here.
Love the seasons
And then that sound,
and what will you believe
and then the chorus.
when the winter comes? That's when I'll be leaving.
And now I could break down these songs, but usually when I do an episode of B sharp and C, let me just get this out of here. Okay, usually when I do an episode of B sharp and C, I like to get into one song, just really get into one song. And I mean, I could do that, but we do have time constraints. But like the second song here that I played, which is his first real hit, A Girl Like You.
Now my hands are bleeding and my knees are raw. Never, never, never.
We have like a guitar solo right here.
This old town's changed so much.
And then I like what he does with as the song comes to an end. I like what he does. He doesn't just necessarily repeat a chorus over and over again for the song to change. He kind of almost writes a new ending, like a new song, but just for the ending. It's kind of like a bridge that changes a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of I don't know if it's the song "Toe the Line" by Toto, where like the song does like verse, chorus, and then it does this weird bridge, but the bridge in and of itself takes on its own identity. It itself is a song, and he kind of does that here as the song ends.
Old town's changed so much. Don't feel that I belong. Too many protest singers, not enough protest songs, and now you've come along. Yes, you've come along.
All right, but why am I rushing through this? I'm not necessarily rushing through it, but I am really focusing on time constraints here, is because I want to show a fourth song. What's important about this fourth song is that in 2005, Edwyn Collins had a massive brain hemorrhage. It was like a bleeding stroke that led to he had to have brain surgery. He ended up getting aphasia, which is like the inability to understand language and to communicate. So he had a long recovery ahead of him. So in 2005, he had that massive health issue. I don't know if you would call it a disease, but it was a massive brain hemorrhage, and he had to have surgery, and he lost a lot of motor functions and lost temporarily, at least, the ability to communicate. And that was in 2005, right? So he was born in 1959, so he was, what, 46? And in 2020, I myself had two massive strokes. And I remember laying in the hospital bed going like this, thinking to myself, oh, Okay, and it's weird because I lost the ability to read English, so I had a little bit of dysphagia. I would look at like signs in the hospital and not even be able to read them. They all looked like they were in Arabic or Cambodian, but they were in English. My brain lost the ability to communicate and to read the language that I was looking at. And then for a while, I had left hand weakness and I couldn't necessarily move my fingers all that well. Fortunately for me, I made a full recovery. Edwyn did not make a full recovery. His stroke was really a lot worse because it was a hemorrhage. He had a brain bleed and they had to do surgery, and they more than likely, I didn't research too much on it, but they more than likely had to remove some blood clots from his brain that had coagulated during the event. And he had a years long recovery, uh, to the point that even today he's not fully recovered. So you would think, and this is what I love about his story, is that, and he's so much of an inspiration because not only did he have a lack of success in his 20s and then have almost success by having a song hit the charts, and then after that, they just couldn't hit the charts anymore. And then you would think that he would be like, well, okay, I tried. But he continued to try into his 30s. And then he had that success with the album Gorgeous George. And then a few years later, he has this massive cerebral hemorrhage and loses some motor function and the ability to speak for a while. You would think that he would say, I'm done. My journey is over. And that is far from the truth. He continued to work with music. When he got out of the hospital, there was an album that was already recorded before his event, and they worked on getting it produced and released. So that was released. And then years later, he continued to try to work on music, and he did do some shows. And in 2010, I think he even released an album. And just recently, from what I can see on his website or on his YouTube channel, this was released this year. So he released an album this year at what, 66? After ups and downs in his career and then a massive brain hemorrhage that anyone, anyone would be justified in saying, I'm done. I'm just going to kind of ride off into the sunset. I've had a fun journey. He did not. Music is so intrinsically a part of his soul that he continued to work on releasing music. And for someone like me, music for me is absolutely everything. It's everything. And sometimes I have to stop and question myself. Hey, Artie, are you obsessed? Like, are you unbalanced with this whole music obsession? Like, what's the deal here, buddy? What's the dealio? For someone like me, when I look at someone like Edwyn Collins, who has been through so much, but yet comes back to music as something to keep him anchored, as something to keep him going, it is such an inspiration to someone like me. I'm 49. I got into music when I was young, and I was told that it was a dumb choice. And I wasted my 20s. I didn't even write music that much. I didn't get into music that much, pretty much all throughout my 20s. Then, when I got back into music, I realized that I never should have let it go. And I'm sure Edwyn Collins had moments, years long moments, where he questioned himself. I think it's normal to do that. I think as a creative person, it's normal to look yourself in the mirror and say, are these efforts worth it? Is what I'm doing selfish? Am I focusing on just me? I think all musicians go through that. But that's why in the beginning of this episode, I said that this is going to be a video about perseverance. Because here in the year 2025, he releases yet another song, another album. But this is the song here. It's actually the album title, Nation Shall Speak Unto Nation. And just look, and he hasn't lost his style.
Back when the words came easily, I had the answer to everything. Reveling in a smart aleck comeback. Now I'm alone with my memories, far from the place that I want to be. Where is the one that speaks to me? If I can talk to you and you can talk to me, how can nation speak unto nation? I know I'm dumb, but people are dumber.
That guy's an actor. I've seen him in movies.
Oh, I'm dumb.
No? I feel like I've seen him in movies. I feel like I've seen him as a bad guy in movies.
But people are dumber, talking
Him too.
in a love-creating way. Talking in a love-creating way.
So the lyrics actually make me think that a little bit of what he's singing about is about his personal experience. I don't know. How long is this video? Okay, we're approaching 30 minutes. I need to end the video. I just need to say that this man is a tremendous inspiration to someone like me. I've gone through the emotional ups and downs. In my late teens, early 20s, I had big aspirations of having a career in music. And I knew in my heart that I was a good songwriter. Just like today, I know in my heart that I'm not bad at writing music. You know, there's a place for me in the music world. But I also know that I need to be realistic. And now as I approach 50, I recognize that in order for me to really dive into the goal, or to dive into a career in music and to try to reach a certain point in music, I realize that it'll hurt the people around me. You know, and I think that that's something important to take into consideration, that I can't quit my job. I can't not have a life when my wife wants to unwind and hang out, or she wants to go out for dinner, or she wants to travel, or she wants to watch TV. I can't be glued to my computer making music. You know, when you're younger, there are less restrictions. There just are. You have less responsibility. And then I had my stroke, and at one point I was thinking, what's the point? You know? Edwyn Collins to me is a massive inspiration. I just think that the ups and downs that he went through, and then that huge health event that he had at 46, I think he was, and then to continue to let the dust settle, heal, recover, recognize that you're not the person you were before, but then recognize that music is here. It's in your soul, you know? And to recognize that and to still fight despite challenges. I can guarantee you he had challenges after he had that cerebral event. And then, of course, even through the years, he probably had a lot of emotional ups and downs, wondering if he was going, like what he was going to do and what he was going not to do, or what he was going to give up when it came to music. And to see that he's coming out with this album now, I just think is a massive inspiration for someone like myself, and for other musicians as well. I thought this was interesting. So he had the event in 2005. I believe I was reading on Wikipedia, and I don't know how, you know, I mean, the internet, you can only get so much information that's accurate, but this seemed like it was accurate. I was reading in Wikipedia, someone that worked in the studio with him in 2011. It was 2010, 2011, because he cut an album back then too. They said to him, wow. Well, no, they said in an interview, they said about him, wow, Edwyn Collins is really beginning to start to make the studio an instrument for him again. And I thought to myself, Jeekers, man. So he had the stroke in 2005. In 2010, someone was able to notice that he was really getting back into the groove of things. And I remember thinking, 5 years. 5 years. So at 51, 5 years after having such a debilitating cerebral event, 5 years after that, to still be fighting and trying to make music a fiber, of your being, to try to get back into that graft, to try to graft yourself back in to the music scene, and to make positive steps doing so. I mean, there's not much I can say. I'm almost speechless. It's just a huge inspiration. So anyways, I don't want to go on and on. I think you get the point. My favorite song by Edwyn Collins, by the way, is the song Out of This World. And I think it's because the minute I heard it, I thought to myself, this is what I want to write. This is what I want to be able to create as a songwriter. I was so excited to hear that the song was created. And at the same time, I was almost like jealous. Like, well, hold on. What am I going to do? Someone's writing music. This is the style I wanted to come up with. Where do I go from here? So I know it's kind of foolish, but those are the things that go through a songwriter's brain. At any rate, thank you so much for watching this episode. Go check out Edwyn Collins' music on your own. He's got a YouTube channel. I'll tag it on this video. And once again, thanks for watching B Sharp and C. And this is Artie Astor saying, keep it groovy.